Absolutely. When people use that name, it should be with, pride and positivity in it,
Sure.
because they know that family and they know that family's solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should be something that should be said with esteem. Not just
exactly.
To the negative. It should be something that when people speak it, they speak it with regard and with good esteem.
Exactly.
So, what do you think? Just from your experience, Mike, with new businesses that are starting up, and we see businesses all the time failing. What do you think some of the main reasons are for that?
For new businesses failing, lack of planning.
Right.
I mean, a lot. It's really easy to it's really easy to blame it on the bank, blame it on the market,
Mm-hmm.
blame it on whatever. The truth is any business where the business owner pushed hard and never gave up, basically have always succeeded. Okay. But at some point, if you decide I can't do this anymore, I'm giving up, well, then really the business failed because of you and because of poor planning. I mean, I've had failed businesses. I've had bad investments, and really I understood the risk and I made the investment and it didn't pan out, and I had a business and I understood the risk and maybe I didn't plan very well for it. I had one business I planned very well, and a couple I didn't plan very well at all, and those businesses no longer exist. Whereas the one I planned well, I was able to sell, and now it still exists to this day.
Excellent.
Planning.
Yeah, like the saying goes, you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yep.
I should probably have it posted up on the wall behind me. So what do you think some of the specific roadblocks and or resources are that you'd advise a new business owner to be mindful of?
Ooh, roadblocks. Okay, here, I'll give you a lesson I just learned. I recently, and I'll be the first to admit it, I recently made a bad investment within the last 6 months. I researched it as much as I could. I knew the risk. I got into it, and as of right now, it hasn't fallen flat on its face, but it's not paying out like it should have. Like I ran numbers on it to begin with. The thing that really was my mistake was I'm a service plumber by day, and I know service-based business, and this was an online investment I was working with, and I measured this online investment business by service business standards.
Right.
And I didn't realize it then. I thought I was doing what I should be doing, but I should have done a little more research. And as a result, now it's not working out so well. So, the thing when you're doing your market research, you don't want to get analysis paralysis. You don't want to just freeze up and not do anything. But at the same time, you want to do as much research as you can to make sure that you understand what it is you're getting into and what the risks and the pitfalls could be, and then move forward. Don't be afraid. You're going to fail. You're going to make a mistake. And I would say that's probably the biggest one. Don't be afraid to fail. It's not failure. It's education.
That's true. That's true. We learn from those mistakes, and no success really happens without failures. If you are lucky every single time, then you learn nothing. But the times that you stumble, we learn from that. And if we stumble twice on the same thing, then it's our own fault. We had the opportunity to learn from the first time. So what, as far as personal values and beliefs, how do those play a role in your business ventures, and how would you advise others to incorporate their own values and beliefs into theirs?
Well, I might have a little different take on this. So I personally, when I get a business card from somebody and it has the little fish on it, I don't like that. And because I am a huge believer, nobody walked around in the first century church saying, "Look at me, look at me." In fact, there were some people that said, "Look at me." They were Sadducees and Pharisees, and they weren't looked on very well. Okay.
Right.
So when you do that stuff, it might make you feel better, but really a lot of people, because Christianity has such a negative connotation to a lot of people anymore who are outside of Christ, it can have an impact that you don't want it to have. So really, if you want to communicate those things, it should absolutely communicate in your business principle, in your family principle, like we were talking about names. When those names are said, they should be with esteem. When your business comes up, it should be the same way. I worked for a guy. I'm not Mormon, but my boss is Mormon, and he is very ethical, and I appreciate that about him very much. And anytime you talk to somebody who has done business with him, they will tell you straight up that he's one of the most honest guys they know.
Right.
And and he doesn't have, hey, I'm a Mormon on his business card. He doesn't have it on the website. People know he's Mormon because they've asked him, because his character dictates such that it's not what they're used to dealing with. They're used to dealing with, contractors that are just kind of jerks, whereas my boss is not that way. Very even, very fair, do what he can to give you the customer service you deserve.
Yeah. I like how you're putting that. And there's the saying that probably everyone has heard of. You'll know them by their fruit. That's how it should be.
Yep.
The saying isn't you will know them by their bark.
Yeah,
that's right. Not the same. You're not going to know them by what you see up front. You're going to know them by what they produce. And so that's how we should be. It's not
Absolutely.
Beat them in the head with your belief system, but at the same time, what you're producing should tell the story. Actions speak louder than words, as they say.
Absolutely.
So when you were starting your business, and then even since you're National Guard retiree, there's kind of that transition as well. How did you transition from one model to the next? Because there probably were some hurdles that you went through going from one mindset to the next mindset. So how did you overcome that?
Well, being a National Guardsman, I mean, you got to overcome that mindset every month. But
yeah.
But it's been fairly recent since I retired, and people ask me, well, how's it feel to be retired? And I'm like, well, I haven't had a big enough gap to really feel the difference of having all of my weekends and all of my days in a year back, because a lot of people still think it was just 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks in the summer. And that model, when they started deploying National Guard troops, that model went out the window.
Right.
And I mean, it's a tremendously higher amount of time now. But the transition, I was a business owner before, and then I got back into plumbing, and I won't go into that, but we had some difficulties when I deployed to Iraq the second time, and we sold the business. But I had a very successful business, had some issues, like I said, had to sell it while I was in Iraq the second time. And that transition to go back, going back to being an employee and then trying to get back into business, it's been difficult. Really, really difficult, because I had momentum. And once that momentum stopped, oh my God. I mean, it's been, and then trying to step into a whole nother genre of business. I don't regret doing it, but at the same time, it's hard. It is a hard transition, but it requires the same thing as anything else, a lot of prayer.
Sure. Yeah, that's a fair point there, because so many businesses are not able to succeed, and so you just have to be patient. Patience is not only a virtue, but it's required. It's patience is mandatory. It's very mandatory.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
So, what compelled you to start up the podcast, The Sedated Man?
Oh, well, that's an interesting story. So for anybody who's listened to my podcast knows that I'm pretty straightforward. I can be pretty brash, pretty straightforward, because I just don't believe in a lot of fluff. And so I had never gone to like a men's event before. And as I get older, it became, and I was kind of a lone wolf for a long time, because when I told men they needed to step up, it wasn't popular. They were like, whoa, I don't think I like that. And then, so I ended up being a lone wolf a lot. Well, as I got older, it was evident that there are no lone wolves in Scripture, really. Okay. Scripture is a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to, I think it was last October, actually. I went to a Wake Up Warrior event. Now, Wake Up Warrior is not a religious organization. Okay? Yeah. However, I really liked the idea of what they were doing, trying to return men. to masculinity. All right. There were some religious guys in the organization, but it is in and of itself not a religious organization. So I was sitting there during one of the events in California, and the idea for the Sedated Man, I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, it was that clear. I hadn't even been thinking it before that. I had been looking for something. I knew that I needed, I always ask my wife, what's it like to be passionate? Because I don't know. Well, from that moment, I understood. I mean, and it hit me hard. And so when I got home, I began putting things together, I guess you could say. And so I started the podcast, and I knew the monetary model was going to take a while to put into place, but I had to start something, and I had to start moving forward. And so really it was born there at the Wake Up Warrior event. And it's been fueled by many other men I've met through doing my podcast now, many other men who are doing similar movements. The only thing I would say is if you're going to have a movement, it needs to be world changing, because my idea for the Sedated Man is worldwide. It's not just my local congregation. All right. And a lot of these smaller movements, great, awesome men, great movements. But in my opinion, maybe they're thinking a little too small. They want to focus just on their congregation, which is great if that's where they're pulled to. But if you want to make a lasting impact, especially in the world today where everything has been so watered down, you have to think globally, especially with technology. You have to think globally, because there's so much work to do that nobody will do it if they don't believe it can be done on a global level. So somebody's got to step out there and do it. And that was our intent from the very beginning, was to be a global movement that others would tap into, that we could provide tools, that we could point people in those local areas to those other local groups to give them the tools they needed to, start to return to manhood.
And I like how you're putting that it should be a global movement, because that really, I mean, we are in a global society now that it's so easy to speak to someone right now that's on the other side of the world. I've had guests from every continent other than Antarctica, and maybe someday I'll get an Antarctic guest on the podcast. We'll see. Have to learn Penguin, I think. But
Christ's message was global.
Yeah, and so that's how we should look at that. To not limit what can be done through what we're doing today, because Christ owns the sheep on 1,000 hills, or the goats on 1,000 hills. So why not let the same thing happen through what we're doing?
Exactly.
Are there other professions that you toyed with wanting to get into?
Yeah, sure. I mean, plumbing. I had 5 boys. I didn't have a great growing up, and so I needed to step into something at some point. And so I stepped into plumbing. Plumbing wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do forever, but it did what I needed it to do. And I'm very thankful that the Lord provided me a way to feed my family and take care of things. Mm-hmm. I have, for a very long time, wanted to be a professional motivational speaker as well. And that is something I'm kind of pushing towards. I would like to do it for the Sedated Man. I'd like to do it also outside the Sedated Man if I can, because I think there's, everybody thinks there's all these motivational speakers. Well, those motivational speakers motivate a small percentage of the world, and there are so many more people that need it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so yeah, that and my wife and I have been toying with some online affiliate type business as well, profession, because what we really like is we would like to be able to be mobile. We'd like to be able to have a business that we can run from anywhere, so that we can go help and do the things we need to do in the places we feel we need to be.
Yeah, and that really does tap into, you're talking about the multiple streams, is tapping into the modern business model that here in the 21st century, it's not just what you do as your regular job. You can have 4 or 5 other streams, and should have 4 or 5 other streams of income going on that are passively building in the background. And so
we also have a duplex. Sorry, we also have a duplex. So
hey, so you're in the real estate as well.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And real estate is definitely a good investment. So
yeah, yep.
That's good stuff. What would you say is your greatest personality strength?